welcome, welcome, welcome. Episode 4 of the show is here. So excited. We have been watching lots and lots of submissions for the show, a learning and design competition that is global for participants of all skill levels. They've taken on a brief. They have put in their submissions. They're going on YouTube. We get to chat about them and people are voting, and it's all in the goal of crowning Best Learning Designer 2020 in the lead up to the conference, the Learning Conference, our first event. We're very excited about it. Today, I want to say that the most exciting keynote for me so far is my hero, personal hero, and I think our guest and Kath are also going to get very excited about this. But we have Kathy Moore, the legend, as our keynote speaker, and she's actually going to be available for a live Q&A. So we will be basically curating Q&A questions before the event, but in the event you get to talk to her. So if you want to come along to the Learning Conference, it's your opportunity to be besties with the legend Kathy Moore. Now, Kath, let's get into the show.
People, I just have to say, she never even gives me an input. She doesn't even give me a legway to come in and say anything.
Well, I wanted to get Nicole.
She just talks all the time.
Well, now I've spoiled the guest, but roll the little intro and then we'll get there.
You got it.
All right, our special guest today is Nicole White. She is the CEO and founder of the ID Crowd. I believe you're doing very awesome things. You've got a great culture, and the things that you're trying to partner with your clients is pretty special. So welcome, Nicole. Very excited to have you here. What's your impressions of Kathy Moore? Has she helped your ID, what do you call it, like practice?
Yeah.
You're a super fan like me. And then we'll let
Kathy
Kat
Moore
speak.
was kind of like one of those people from the very, very beginning who was starting to kind of think more practically about this kind of stuff. So I think we all had our little tools and favorite bookmarked articles from Kathy Moore. Yeah.
Now, Kath, I'll hand over to you and stop yapping on. You can have the spotlight for a moment. What would you like to say?
Nothing, just how much I adore Nicole and the ID Crowd. She's phenomenal. That's okay. That's all right. That's okay. Oh, getting a bit of echo feedback there. So on the left-hand side, we've got Ravindra. And Ravindra is a freelance e-learning designer and developer. And on our right, we've got Kristi, who is an instructional designer. So let's find out a little bit more about Ravindra. He says, many e-learning courses come with unpleasant layouts and broken format. Let's fix that together and put things in order. Your e-learning material can be much better. I've worked in learning and development since 2012 and have worked on a variety of e-learning solutions that enables corporates to upskill and develop their careers. He talks about some of the programs that he's used. Let's have a look what Ravindra submitted.
All right. So Ravindra, well done, I have to say. Leverage the web. That's what he wants to do because it exists in the world and people are used to it already. Why not? He wants to have a command center. I love that he's given it a name. And it's basically a central hub providing key stats, squash myths, and to educate about symptoms and prevention and share some of the news updates at Liberty City. He wants to have a really nice visual design so he doesn't overload his users. And the tool he's recommending is WordPress, and he will build it through the Elementor page. So he also says that with the plugins, updates for sustainability are just a click away. Well. Ladies, I think we need to talk about the look and feel of this design. Nicole, first impressions, what are your recs?
I have to say it's so nice to see something clean. You can see that it's not just about the visual design, but the information design is actually really clean here as well. Yeah, it's spiffy.
Ooh, I haven't heard that word, but I like it. Kath, what's your impressions of this submission?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I can see how you could bring WordPress in, you know, obviously building kind of widget format that you can use latest news, and he's just got nice links through to information. I mean, it's very nice that you can use it as a landing page, obviously, to give data and an easy way for people to get in and find out information. So looks really good to me. I mean, we've talked about this, Kim. We've had a number of solutions, and we've had a number of website suggestions as well. So definitely WordPress would be, in my opinion, a great solution.
Yeah,
and I love the graphics and everything. Yeah,
it's cool. That captured very well like what modern design is here, with like the rounded buttons. I love the thing at the top where he's using like the active color, then recovered is green, red is death. So I think that really draws your attention. So very good use of UI, good principles here by Ravindra. Let's have a look.
Good job, Ravindra.
Kristi.
We'll move on. Okay, so Kristi says, I have 15 years experience in education and instructional design. I'm passionate about creating meaningful learning experiences. So let's check out what she submitted.
Alrighty. So Kristi wants to put together some interactive images using Genial.ly. It has functionality such as hotspots and links to articles. It sounds a little bit like Rise and Evolve and things like that. And she's really putting emphasis on not having information overload. But if you have a look at the next slide, which demonstrates some of her examples, it's really about giving people access to the information that they want if they want it. And if they don't, that's cool. Don't click it. Just move on to what's relevant to you. So, Kath, what are your thoughts on Kristi's example here?
Yeah, again, it's nicely formatted. The hotspots work quite well in the way that they chunk the content down, and looks good, looks okay. There's obviously a video that we can't click on, but it will be available if you want to go to the source to the show HQ. We will have all the downloads in the showcase for you to go and have a look and click on that link and access the video.
Yeah. And Nicole, what's your thoughts on using visuals? You know, she's talking about using interactive images here. What are your thoughts on that in the power of learning?
Yeah, I think using visuals, I think we've always kind of we've sort of allocated visuals for, you know, people who might have English as a second language, or from, you know, maybe accessibility, or from, you know, speed, all of that sort of stuff around, you know, speed to be able to pick up what's being put across. But I think there's so much that we can actually get out of that type of thinking for everyone. And especially when you're looking at things like COVID. And the thing that stands out to me the most is that using the little diagrams around the washing of hands. Like, most of the time you don't need a policy on it. You don't need a whole page of it. Just, you know,
that's right.
Happy birthday, wash your hands. Like,
yes,
that's kind of all you need. So it's really direct. And I think that there's a lot that we can leverage from some of these older practices that we kind of thought about for specific units of people, but broader context.
Yeah, good point. Awesome.
Good job, Kristi.
Shimmy on to the next people.
Okay, so in the left we've got Ula, and she's an e-learning developer, and she was up against Jonathan Hill, who's a digital learning manager. Now, Ula says, I triggered my love for e-learning when writing a thesis on information society almost 20 years ago. And she's gone on to talk a little bit about what she studied and things. Now, Ula unfortunately did not submit anything, so we'll move on to Jonathan. Now, Jonathan is a digital learning manager. He says, I'm an award-winning e-learning designer with a background in teaching and training in the further education and insurance sectors for the past 4 years. I have specialized in online and distance learning alongside my role as digital learning manager for Commercial Express. I'm part of the Articulate e-learning heroes community, which a lot of people are. It's an incredibly popular community if you're wanting to learn more about Articulate. And this is what he has submitted through to us.
All right. So before I get into his brief, I just want to say massive shout out to you, Jonathan. Thank you so much you've liked every single post. You've been sharing stuff. You've been really getting on the hype of this initiative. And we're very grateful to have your energy. I just love the support that people like yourself are giving to it to spread the word and help people develop and improve their learning design skills, because that's what this is all about.
That's
so
right.
Jonathan's example is an interactive video, and he's suggesting Camtasia and Storyline 360 as his kind of platforms to develop it in. And he wants it to act as a chatbot, which I thought was quite cool, to do interactive video through a chatbot. Now, he has a few things in here, such as he wants to track it using XAPI. And what that will do is track it for the council, Liberty City, so that they can understand what their users' main concerns are and then help serve them better, which I think is a really clever way of doing things. And he also wants to focus on branching scenarios. So he has specified that the branching scenarios will not be information that needs to change regularly, but it's behaviors that they need to build over time. So they will be not needing to be updated. He's looking at using like like an intuitive user face where there's like 2 to 4 buttons on screen. You don't need an instruction thing to get through it. He's suggesting as well, which I really like that he's proposed this, in terms of you can have actors, or we could use your staff, or we could use cartoon characters from something like Beyond. So he's given the client options to think about, which I think is a nice idea. And he also wants to give the opportunity for third-party links through his resource. All right, so looking at that example, Nicole, what are your thoughts?
I have to say, I think that the thing that excites me the most about this is the data, at the risk of sounding like a complete nerd, saying it over the top of already being an instructional design nerd. I really love this outside thinking of how could this data collection actually be used in a broader context to not just even, it's, you know, not even just about improving the learning piece. It's about how could that data actually be used to help, you know, build other things in the community, or, you know, that are not related to learning. I think that just, that excites the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah. Kath, have you seen it done well, or what are your thoughts on Jonathan's submission? You can answer either question.
Yeah, I like the idea of, especially this chatbot kind of idea. We've had a couple of examples of chatbot, and we've talked about how much we've loved that idea. Again, building on Nicole's feedback on the data, gathering data. I think it's just any kind of tool that we can get data. It's great to be able to get data, but it's being able to use that data properly, you know, and to make informed decisions on, you know, and that's why I like these tools like Alexa, and, you know, whether you've got kind of a chatbot linked up on your Facebook, if there's actually things, so I use ManyChat on my Facebook, and if I essentially have someone writing something in that there's not an answer, I still in the back end get to see what they're asking about. And that allows me to go, oh, someone asked about, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that allows me to identify things. The same with Alexa. If someone asks something, it will record, Alexa records her voice. So the same way with this, you know, to think outside the box, chatbot, okay, and how can we actually get that other information? It's fascinating. So I really like it, and I like that there's some different options for the client, because remember, this is the proposal for the client, saying we can do a cartoon, or we can do a, you know, kind of an image of the staff member. So yeah, it's good.
Nice work, Jonathan.
Really top work. Let's go to our next pairing. So on the left, we have Devlin Peck, who is an e-learning designer. And on the right, we've got Rachel Hudish, who is the Director of Learning Design and Technologies. So let's find out a little bit more about Devlin. He started his e-learning consultancy while while earning his master's degree in instructional systems and learning technologies at Florida State University. By the time he graduated, he has an award-winning portfolio and a client list that kept him and his partner busy full-time. Today, they work together under Peck Consulting, LLC, to provide e-learning services to clients worldwide. Devlin Peck contributes to the industry by providing free resources on XAPI, performance consulting, and e-learning design. And I've learned a lot from Devlin personally, especially his interest in XAPI, and just he's just a nerd, you know. I mean, you think you're a nerd, Nicole. I think he's like a bit of a super nerd. He just jumps into any tool and he's trying to hack it, and how can I leverage on it and utilize it. He's top designer.
Well,
all right,
cool.
So this is what he submitted.
That's cool to hear that, because Devlin is one of our experts at the Learning Conference, and he will be helping people break those tools and showing what's possible. And that is also reflected in his submission, because he wants to use a tool called React.js. And it's basically a JavaScript library used to develop high-performing mobile-friendly apps. And he wants to put in some XAPI in there, which we know he's very passionate about. And it will be pulling content from a CMS to add and remove content at ease. So that's where you would update the content and it would come through this tool that he's using. He wants his solution to be focused on practical info, stats, and a scenario-based challenge. The cues or the questions, getting all shorthand in my casualness now, the questions help determine if users can follow proper prevention guidelines. And in his scenarios, he actually wants to focus on real world consequences, which I absolutely love. And he's also going to have some community weekly virus stats. Thoughts on the use of real world consequences? Nicole, I know you're nodding behind the screen there.
I love a real world consequence. This actually reminds me of, if I'm allowed to tell a little tale, that when I did my master's, I got to design an app, and it was about practicing fire drills in the office. It did require Google Maps to work inside, which wasn't a thing, but the whole real world components of like, okay, well, you have X amount of time to be able to get out of this building, to be able to kind of go, well, you're a crispy critter right now, versus, you know, you made it out safely, and the impacts of those sorts of things. So I actually think that it's that next little layer on. We've been very good, I think, in this industry around creating scenarios and having the story, but I still feel sometimes we're a little bit protective around what can actually happen as a result if something doesn't work. So I think real life scenarios and actually having some realistic consequences, I think, is really impactful.
I agree. What is your reaction, Kath? What are you thinking?
Well, I really like it. I like the design. I like the concept. He's got, you know, again, we've had mobile solutions that have been suggested. This is the first time we've seen React, and this is proper nerdy stuff. If you're going to have a look at the React website, it's like pure code. But, you know, he's got this content management system. So that's obviously going to be a great way for the client to just, you know, he's kind of doing all the dev work, and then for the client to still have access to the CMS to change data and figures. That sounds really, really great. Like the colors, flat design, it's all consistent. Yeah, looks nice. Looks really great.
Nice work, Devlin. Thanks for your submission. Over to
Top
Rachel
work,
now.
Devlin. Okay, so now we've got Rachel Hudish, and Rachel has served as an instructional systems designer for almost 10 years. She's got a background in multimedia development for classroom and online course development with academic and government training. Let's have a look what Rachel has submitted.
All right, new tool alert, because Rachel's talking about Wix. Wix is like a website maker, and it is responsive. And what she has mentioned, I think is really cool, is that it integrates very well with Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So basically, she's also suggesting, this is really cool, I'm like priming people by saying it's really cool. Shouldn't be saying that. This is a neutral perspective on a social media plan that she would like to present and have created and implemented alongside her solution. She's saying she wants to use a program called Vengage for her infographics. These tools are sustainable and you can afford them, Liberty City, because they have monthly pricing subscriptions and they're visually beautiful. Now, she's also recommended Hootsuite as the tool for planning and managing her social media for the next 90 days. Well. Different approach from what we've been looking at in this episode. Thoughts?
Well, it's certainly different in the sense that she's talked a little bit about how she will manage her social media. So Hootsuite is great, that you can not only use it to send out all your media, but you can actually start curating, like you could put in terms like COVID-19 and actually have it curate you information, what other people are putting out there. So as far as a tool, it's really fantastic. Wix, another just really easy, responsive authoring tool. That's great. And I like the idea of leveraging on social media, because it's something that people can just follow dead easy. And as far as sounds really good.
Integrating the learning into their lives that already exist. So I really like that. Yeah. Nicole,
and
thoughts? Oh, sorry, Kath, go on, finish.
I was just going to say, I'm just looking at this Vengage as well. So it's an infographic creator. Yeah. So,
Nicole, what's your impressions?
I agree with you, Kim. I think that being able to integrate into people's lives, so it's not something that's necessarily additional to, like it's that seamless, you're in there anyway. I am really keen to see more, and it'd be interesting to see whether this is a little bit more around, is it one way, or is the idea that it's kind of that two-way social piece? Because I do feel like I'm still waiting to see a really good social learning program. And having something like this, some of the thinking that kind of goes around it, I think is, something like this, I think is a really good platform to be able to look at building on more social learning. Yeah.
And I think what you're like saying there is like having the community submit their photos and showing what they're doing in their homes or with their kids, or to have these preventative measures in place. So it's not just Liberty City Council pushing stuff out, it's community driven, that social experience. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's Mary from the fruit shop or whatever,
So she knows what she's talking about with COVID.
Well, I think for some people they find that very confronting, this idea that the community or your team will curate your content. They, for a lot of managers, this is a very scary space because they want to be in control of the message, not the other way around. But if it's done well, it can be incredibly effective. So good job.
All right, last round of episode 4. Here we go.
All right, so we have Marwa Alshamy, and she is a designer, and she was up against Jason Norris, a producer. So Marwa says she loves mixing art with education, and this is what Marwa has submitted for us.
All right, so what she wants to do is put an app together, and her whole theme is around you are not alone. So she wants to do kind of the general stuff around, the symptoms and how to protect yourself. But what she really wants to put emphasis on is humor and with her approach, because she wants to help people have less fear and panic around what's going on. So I really like that. She is talking about having a case caution map and that little thing down the bottom where you can see like the 3 little bullets. She basically has things like fitness targets and volunteering. So it's really building on that community, like what's happening in Liberty City, how can you help, how can you get support? And especially when people are at home and stuff, she's going, hey, like here's a home planner for you to keep active while you can't go to the gym. And she's also saying that it's available to access through smartphones, watches, and GPS stuff. So Nicole, what do you reckon?
I don't think I've seen COVID represented so beautifully. Is it wrong that I do want to just make a print out of that and hang it up on my wall? That is a It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful COVID. I do like that the ability for this particular piece to be able to build habits, I think is a really interesting notion that, you know, I've spoken to lots of people around, you know, what's happening in their home. Some people have gone all out, scheduled every minute of their day versus, you know, sitting on their couch in tracksuit pants, and each to their own. But I'm a scheduler. So something like this for me would be, you know, this idea that you can learn, but you can also manage your time, stay healthy. I love this idea of, you know, that this sense of community and you're not alone. You know, a lot of the time I think we have a tendency to just look at look at COVID or look at the change, look at the thing that needs to happen. But change is highly emotional. And there is a lot of loneliness out there in the world. And I think this is a really human approach.
I like that. It is a human approach.
I totally agree. I think that this shows that someone's thought a lot about how we're going to bring people together, you know, a tool to bring people together instead of just informing people. So kind of taking it to the next level. I really like this.
That's human-centered design right there.
Absolutely. So good job. Fantastic. Now we have Jason Norris, who says, I've been working with media since the early 90s, radio broadcasting, and he's recently explored podcasts, specifically designing them on-the-go learning experiences, just like your one, Nicole. The great podcast hybrid learning module that you made. So unfortunately, he did not submit anything, so that was very disappointing. However, what a great load of submissions we've received, Kim.
Yes. Nicole, what would you like to say as your key takeaway from what you've seen today, or something that has inspired you to think differently about how you might go about your learning design solutions in the future?
Oh, I've just been I really never get to see what's kind of happening out there in the world. And I've just been excitedly making notes about what we can kind of pull into our own practice. I think that it's really just the element of sharing that's really, really valuable here, and something that you can take away. I have written Ben Gage about infographics as well.
Ooh, nice.
It's great.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Very grateful for you being here and sharing the value and the tips and your perspective from your IDE perspective. It's really great, and it is going to add so much value to the people that are watching the show. Huge love as well to the participants for taking the time to submit and for just thinking and having a bit of fun with it. There's so much learning for you guys being part of this initiative, and also for the people that will watch the show. So it's over to the voting now, Kath. How can people vote for their favorite designs?
All you need to do is up on the right-hand corner of the YouTube video, you should see a little white dot with an eye in it. Take your mouse, go on and hover over that, and you'll see the list of polls. All you need to do is vote for your favorite entry. And if you want to see the submissions, all you need to do is go to the show HQ, which is theshow.thelearningconference.online, and you can go into the showcase and you can take a rummage and look at all of them in more detail. All right. Well, we thank you very much for watching the session, watching the show, and we'll talk to you soon.